President, your compatriots are waiting for your intervention, which will be umhlahlandlela. Iza nomkhombandlela Mongameli.
Halala batho ba Kostere halala. Halala batho ba Kostere halala. Ardulem fas. Ke rata go le dumedisa kaofela ha nyena ke simolle ka go leboga ba tsamaisang mosebetsi. Ke dumedise mo premier wa rona o ileng a ntshepisa gore nka fihla mo kgetleng ka bano tla ba bofile dintja a ke soka kuka ntja e bogola go bua gore o di bofile. Re yena o na le dintja tse dintsi se kile ka mo etela di dintsi ntja tsa gagwe. Ke leboge di-minister tsa rona tse teng gompieno mo, Minister Nathi Mthethwa, Minister Ronald Lamola, Minister Thulas Nxesi, ke bona bao ba ke ba boneng, le Minister wa Defense le Military Veterans, Mme Modise. Ke dumedise le di MEC tsa rona tse teng mo, ke fetele mo di mayor tsa rena tsa district le masepala. Ke dumedise dikgosi tsa rona tse teng mo kopanong ye, and then greet all the residents of Koster. Forward with Koster, forward. Forward with Koster, forward. And then I greet all fellow South Africans. Today is a Human Rights Day of profound significance for many reasons. It is the first time in 2 years that we are able to gather as a people to commemorate this day and remember what happened in history, but also to pledge our determination to ensure that what happened in history and its many attendant evils does not happen again in South Africa. This is a reminder of how far we have come since the case of COVID-19 that was declared in our country, and we entered in a nationwide lockdown to contain this virus. And now we are here, able to gather in safety and observing the public health regulations, and have become part of this. Preventative measures have become part of our everyday lives. We are observing Human Rights Day here in the town of Koster, in the Kgetleng River local municipality. Just as the people of Sharpeville in Gauteng still bear the scars of the tragedy that befell them 62 years ago, a tragedy that was fueled by racial hatred. 14 years ago, this community was shaken by a terrible crime, also underpinned by racial hatred. It was a crime made all the more worse because it happened in democratic South Africa. On the 14th of January in 2008, a white gunman, Johan Nel, opened fire in the settlement of Skirlek, killing 4 people and from repression. The hurt of what took place in Skirlek here 14 years ago still cuts deep. It still hurts. People still remember. People still have it embedded in their memory. It was a stark reminder to us all that racism did not die when apartheid fell. It was a stark reminder that racism is still very much alive in our country. But it was also a moment of reflection for us to redouble our efforts to get rid of racism, to rid our country of this terrible disease once and for all, and root it out of South African life. It showed us that there was much work still to be done to build the bridges of tolerance, the bridges of understanding, the bridges of building a consensus, of consolidating our cohesion as a people and as a nation. We are reminded of this even today when we hear of incidents of racism and intolerance in our schools, intolerance in our workplaces, in communities, in our universities, on the roads of our country, in professional sectors, and in many other places where South Africans interface with one another. These incidents do sadden us. They make us angry, as they should. But much worse, they humiliate us. They seek to make us less human. They break down our confidence. They just humiliate us so badly. And one of the rights we should cherish in our Constitution, whether clearly articulated or not, is the right not to be humiliated. The apartheid horror was about humiliating the black people of this country. And we must say no. We are no longer going to be allow anyone to humiliate us. We reject humiliation. We don't want to be treated as subhumans. We don't want to be humiliated. Ka hobane humiliation ke a gore o shebela motho o mong ko tlase, o fete moo o mmontshe gore wa motella, o fete moo o mmontshe gore wa monyefula, o fete moo o mmontshe gore a o matle gore a be haufi le wena. It is this type of humiliation that must end. We suffered 340 years of humiliation. And we say, it is over, it is enough. Huntsi. Huntsi. So when anybody wants to express their prejudice against us, wants to express their difference against us, really, do not humiliate us. Yes, we accept we can be different, and we accept that we may have prejudices. Gore no na a ke rate mmala o mosweu, ke rata mmala o mokhibedu, a ke rate mmala o motsho. That is your right. Gore no ke tla reka hempe e tshweu, ke tla reka hempe e ntsho, go siame. But o ska e fetisa ko pele, o be o re a o rate batho ba mmala o itseng, a o re a ke rate batho ba bantsho, le rona re ska re a ke rate batho ba basweu, and then humiliate them and then treat them badly. Ke yona ntho e re sa e batleng. So today, Human Rights Day, is also about that. And that is why we say acts of racism, acts of humiliating others because of their race, these are incidents that have no place in our society, where we still struggle to heal the divisions of the past. We have not allowed these acts of racism and intolerance to define us or to turn us against each other. They may have brought back bitter memories of our past, but they have not dragged us back into that past. Because sometimes those who seem to practice acts of racism, who express themselves in racist ways, it is almost though they are saying, we want to take you back to that past because that past favored them. That past gave them all the rights that many of us did not have. And we refuse to be dragged back to the past where there was racism in this country, but we choose to draw our strength, our inspiration, and our protection on our Constitution, which was brought into effect 25 years ago after being signed into law in Sharpeville. The Constitution affirms that South Africa belongs to all who live in it and commits us to upholding the values of our Constitution and the values of human dignity. It affirms that our society is rooted in non-racialism, and non-sexism. It holds that our country is founded and rooted on the rule of law, and that all of us are equal before the law. There is no one who is favored by the law better or over another. It confirms the rights of all adult South Africans to have the right to vote, to participate in the political life of their country, a right that was denied them in the past. Our Constitution calls for the advancement and protection of human rights for all, without choosing a particular section in our community and endowing it with human rights like what was happening in the past. Remember, in the past, a tiny section of the population had human rights, and the rest did not enjoy human rights. Our Constitution was brought into effect to correct that horrible mistake. Constitution does not matter whether people are men or women, adult or children, rich or poor, landed with property or landless. Does not matter whether they are urban or rural. It does not matter whether they are earners or unemployed, whether they are workers, whether they are employers. That does not matter as far as our Constitution says. And in exercising our rights, we must also, as South Africans, reject discrimination and hate crimes that are perpetrated by some amongst us against those who pursue a sexual orientation life and on the basis of gender identity. We must condemn these acts of violence, of homophobia, as well as of transphobia. In the face of the violence that is perpetrated against the LGBTQI community, we need to ensure that we act against those forms of violence. We must be clear about that. And we would like to say that the LGBTQI plus community, I'd like to say to them, they are not alone. We are not alone, and we will walk this journey with you. We are with you, and I am with you as well. The struggle for an end to violence, to discrimination, and to hate against the LGBTQI plus community must end, and it must end now. And I'd like it to be made clear that all communities in our country have the Constitution as their protection. An attack on a woman of our country is an attack on all of us. An attack on the LGBTQI plus community is also an attack on the universal and South African values that we have all sworn to uphold and to defend. So when you attack a woman, when you kill a woman, when you violate the sexual rights of a woman, and when you attack the LGBTQI plus community, just know that you are essentially attacking the values of the South African states and the South African people. And we will not allow that, and that is why we have vowed to root out attacks against women and attacks against children. This we shall do. Now, the Constitution that we so cherish obliges the state to protect and uphold the rights that the people of South Africa have and to ensure that everybody's basic needs are also progressively met. The Constitution is founded on the achievement of equality. Today, a quarter of a century since the Constitution came into effect, we are confronted by a stark reality. We are a free people. Being a free people, there are a number of challenges that we face. We are still a long way from being a nation of equals. In recent weeks, a number of studies have told us that inequality in South Africa is growing and is deepening. This situation has been made worse by the global pandemic that has now entered its third year. The pandemic has had a grave impact on the ability of people to lead the lives of dignity promised by our Constitution. The study of the World Bank notes that South Africa remains an equal country in the world, and that race continues to be a key driver of inequality. Race continues to be a key driver of inequality in our country. If you are black in South Africa, and in particular if you're a woman, you are more likely to be poor, to live in an impoverished location, to be unemployed, to have lower levels of education, and not have access to any assets whatsoever, and possibly not even have access to basic services. So it is this phase of a black woman that poverty wears. The legacy of colonialism and apartheid continues to reinforce inequality in many spheres, and undoing these effects has been a momentous task. Our struggle for freedom was fundamentally about improving the lives of our people. Over the 28 years, the country has made significant progress in tackling poverty and deprivation. We have built houses for our people. We have built clinics and hospitals for our people. We have implemented universal basic education and higher education as well. The vast majority of our people have access to decent water, sanitation, electricity as well in their homes. Societies most vulnerable are supported by an extensive social welfare system. Every month, over 46% of the population receive some form of social grant. Social grant that affects the lives of those who are older, the older citizens. They get their pension without fail. And recently, the Minister of Finance increased it The previous year it did not increase by much, but this time round he increased it by a little. And we have committed that that pension will always be there. We then instituted another pension for the disabled people. Those who are disabled, we said for those who are disabled, they will also receive a pension where the state supports them in their vulnerability, in the challenges they face. On top of that, we then said children below 18, they will be looked after by the state. About 12 million children every month receive their child grants every month without fail. And we said we will not fail on that. Now, with COVID having had the negative impact, we looked at our financial resources and realized that we needed to do something. For those who were employed, we relied on releasing money from the unemployment fund so that it can augment their earnings if they were being put on short time and so on. And then we were left with those who don't work, the unemployed. And we decided that much as we do not have resources, there's something that we will put on their table so that they can at least get food for their children. Then we started with the 350 Rand grant, which now goes to almost 11 million South Africans who do not work. And that too has helped a great deal. So when we count all these on a cumulative basis, we find that the social wage, the grant system now covers 46% of the population. Now clearly, this is being done at a time of great hardship. Great hardship that we're going through. And we said for the 350 and so, we want to see the extent to which we can grow the economy so that those who are in receipt of the 350 can now be absorbed into the labor market. Now, this is the extensive nature of our social welfare system that has been put in place because the government sought to demonstrate that we are a compassionate government. We are a government that is seeking to address the needs of our people. Our people are suffering under really difficult circumstances of joblessness and all that. But we have said no one must be left behind. The government will not want to leave anyone behind. And it is for this reason that we came up with all these assistant measures. Asiyona nto entle yona. However, as we sit here, we see a number of these gains being eroded. This is not only because of the devastation of COVID, but also because of the impact of global events that are taking place beyond our shores. Right now, there's a huge war that is raging in Ukraine and Russia, and the gains that we've been making are now going to be reversed by that war that is taking place there, because our food prices are now going up, our fuel prices, petrol ya ko godimo, re ntse re leka gore re tsamaye tsela e sentle, re ke re bone gore re ka thusa batho ba rena ba South Africa ka tsela e feng. Yaanong ha go tlhaga ntwa ele ya ko Ukraine e re busetsa morago. COVID le re ntse re ya pele gantle or sentle e re buiseditse morago. Go na le batho ba lekana le 2 million ba latlhegetsweng ke ditiro. So le ntwa e ya ko Russia le ko Ukraine e re buisetsa morago. Instead of moving forward, we are finding that we are now getting into another trap. It's all because many of the things that we are trying to do depend on outside factors, not all of them. Some depend on internal factors, factors that we ourselves need to address. Factors such as corruption. We have seen how corruption and incompetence have together had a devastating impact on the delivery of services, especially to corruption and state capture have eroded human rights of the state, and it has undermined the rule of law. Re ne re tla sentle ka hanong ke bona bao ba re isang morago. One of the most reasons that people here in Kgetleng local municipality, like many others in the northwest around the country, experience problems with getting decent drinking water and poor sanitation. Ha re sheba di services tse tshwanetseng gore le di kry-e, re kry-a gore bao ba ikemiseditseng gore ba tla utswa ke bona ba senyang di services di ska tlhola di tla mo go yeng. And ke bona bao ge ba re tshwanetseng gore ba ntshe tseleng. Ke bua beana gore ke batla gore ba utlwe ka ditsebe tsa bona, ba ikutlwele ka obane kgolo ba utlwa. Ya ntho e ke e beyang ke a gore go fitlhile nako ele wa bona batho ba rena a ba sa tlhola ba ikemiseditse gore ba shebelle fela ha tšhelete e utswiwa, a ba ikemisetsa ka gobane ba itse gore ke tšhelete ya bona e tshwanetse gore ba etsetse mesebetsi. So ha o le legodu, ha wena o ikitse gore wa utswa, re tswele ka ntlo. Ke re tswele ka ntlo pele go ka se be monate ha setse re go kry-ile, ka nnete go ka se tlhole go ba monate. Nako ele ya gore no re tla kwala leitlho le one le leng le shebe kwa ha o ntse o utswa e fedile nako eo. So bao ba utswang ba sitiswa gore go be le tswelopele, bao ba batlang gore etsa di business tsa bona ba tlholega ka gobane ha ba batla di permit, di license le ntho tse ding ha ba ya di-officing ba tshwanetse gore ba ntshe tjotjo ba hana ba tshwanetse gore ba gane go ntsha tjotjo. And ha motho ga go na le ope o tla reng ntsha tjotjo, re batla gore ba bang ba mo shout out ba re motho o batlang tjotjo ke yo, ka hobane o sitisa gore mosebetsi o tswelle pele sentle. Wa bona ntho e re bitsang corruption, if we can take it up as a community, kaofela ha rona re nke e le mosebetsi wa community, e be rona who will draw the line. Re ipolelle gore we are not prepared to live in a society, in a community. Corruption is the order of the day. If we as a community can say so, I am telling you, we will be able to root out all these corrupt elements. We are the ones who must stand up and say, no, not in our community, not in our society. Unless we do so, kana le utlwiseng gore wa itse, le utlwiseng gore batho ba utswang a ba utswe lefifing fela, go na le ba bang ba ba itseng ba sebetsang le bona, and batho bao ba utswang ba itsiwe, go a itsiwe gore moketekete kana yena ke Mr. 10%. Moketekete yena ha o batla gore a sign permit tshwanetse mo fe 2,000 rand. Moketekete ra ba itse. We know these people because they live amongst us. It must be to call them out, and we as the communities have the power to root out corruption. We have the power. Go tshwana le yona ntwe ya gender-based violence. Ya gender-based violence, batho bao ba rapang, batho bao ba shapang basadi, re a ba itse. Re a ba itse because they live amongst us. And re be re thola. Ra mo itse gore no, motlhankana ole o ile a kena ko ntlong e itseng, a ilo rapa ngwanyana ha tholwa. After that, I ilo rapa o mong. After that, I ilo rapa o mong. So then we become a community and a society of perpetrators le rona against gender-based violence, the fight against corruption as well. Because of corruption, our people are forced to pay more for services. Go na le motho o utswang, and then price ya ntho e nngwe le nngwe re e rekang e tshwanetse re ye ko godimo. Government infrastructure is vandalized or left to decay. It must involve all of society. It must bring together government, business, community, civil society, and community formations, as well as individual citizens. And in forging a new consensus, what we are seeking to do is to reclaim the responsibility of delivering the promise of our Constitution. There can be no dignity if our children continue to go to bed hungry. There can be no dignity if our young people continue to remain unemployed. And there can be no dignity if access to adequate housing, health care, food, water, and social assistance is determined by the race or the class that one belongs to. Now, my message to all South Africans today is that the Constitution is not a mere piece of paper. It is a document that empowers us. As much as it places responsibilities on the state, the Constitution also confers duties on us as citizens. We can only win against unemployment if we rid our society of the ills that continue to set the progress that we are bound to have back. And these ills, matata a re kopanang le ona tseleng, it's crime, botsotsi, substance abuse, gender-based violence, damage to essential infrastructure, and violence in our schools. Now, reclaiming the Constitution must be our common task. We must obey the law and report those who break the law. We must work with the South African Police Service and other law enforcement agencies. This should support their work. E botlhokwa ka bane sebaka se seng le se seng se tshwanetse gore se be le community policing forum ka bane mapodisa a ba go gotlhe. We must play a supportive role to them. We must pay to the public service that we use beyond the basic amount of services that we receive. Must have trust and confidence, must take care of public infrastructure and report acts of vandalism. As individuals, let us meet our common responsibility to help and to care for the elderly. People who are elderly, living with disabilities, as well as children. Now, to build the South Africa that we want, we must make our voices heard on the laws and the policies that affect us through public hearings, community hearings. So, le lona le participating le motseo. We must be active citizens that support community-based organizations that are performing invaluable work in places that we live in. Another important duty of citizenship is holding to account those tasked with public office. Last year, we held local government elections, and new councillors have taken their seats in the municipalities across the country. We must demand our councillors that they make good on their electoral promises. Ba ile ba re tshepisa dintho tse dintsi, ba re ba tla lokisa. Re tshwantse gore ba boele mo go rena, ba tlo re bolella gore ba etsa eng na kapa ba ituletse di officing hela. Ba tle mo go rena. Go tshwanetse gore go be le dikopano, regular meetings and report backs. Ba re bolelle gore ba etsa eng. One time ke le leetong ko China. Ko China they go beyond that. Ba bontsha kgwedi le kgwedi tšhelete e keneng le tšhelete e sebeditseng le gore sebeditse o etsa eng. So a gona sephiri moo, a gona lekunutu, a gona go utswa tšhelete, ntho e nngwe ya bonagala, it's clearly stated. So le rona a re gona moo. Councillors, ward and otherwise, ba tshware di meeting le rona. They must report back to us on a regular basis. But le rona ge, we must also re ba support. Re ba support mo ditirong tse ba di etsang. Re join community betterment activities like ha gotwe gompieno re lo take that experience re tlise mo toropong. Re bontshe gore we are a decent and clean people. Batho ba mo Koster. Jaanong as batswadi ka hobane re batswadi bongata ba rona, let us also play an active role in our children's education life by joining the school governing bodies. Re ye ko dikolong re lo thusa. We get a volunteer, like about 2 hours a day, 1 hour or so a week. We lo thusa. O thusa ka gardening ya vegetables. O thusa ka seo le seo. Once we can do that, go na le ba bang ba di etsa mo ditoropong tse ding. They do precisely that, and that helps just to boost the morale of everybody by pizza the volunteers tsa sekolo. So le lona ge as parents, I want to challenge you to do all that. Now I want to take this opportunity to address employers in this country, including in the hospitality, agriculture, transport, and labor-intensive sectors. Now, our country has one of the highest unemployment rates in the world. Now, when employers employ, really, we want you to employ our people. Employ our people, train them well, give them the necessary skills, treat them like human beings. And I say so advisedly, being a former trade unionist, knowing hore employers ba bang, they don't even treat their workers well. So I say, treat your workers well, but we also say, now when employers knowingly hire undocumented foreign workers, they are breaking the law. Ba roba molao. Re go na le gore batho ba rona ba mo gae mo South Africa ba be ba etsa di march and so forth. Let's all of us do the right thing. Ha ba etsa bjalo, they are also contributing towards social tensions between our citizens and foreign nationals who are living here or have taken refuge here. Department ya rona of Home Affairs and Employment continue to engage with employers to ensure that compliance with the immigration and labor laws of this country. On non-discrimination, we must never allow ourselves to turn against people who come from from other countries. And if you want to know, and I say this because I was in the mining industry, the mining industry, Yarona, as we know it, was developed and built not only by South Africans, but also from workers from other countries. Mozambique, Lesotho, Zimbabwe, Angola, Zambia, Eswatini, and so on. They all participated. And of course, now we are facing challenges of unemployment. But the challenges of unemployment that we are facing should never mean that we should go and wage war against those people from other countries. Because once we do that, we just immediately promote this spirit of xenophobia. For now we hate them, and now they must go. What we are saying is that, yes, we want people to be properly documented in our country. We want employers to be very careful and hire people who are properly documented. And if we can work on that basis and do it in the spirit that we do it as South Africans, where we will do it in an orderly way, remembering where we are a diverse country. We are a diverse country, not a country of the same people. Re fapane, a re tshwane kaofela. And we came from different places. And so therefore, we must embrace one another and work together. So it's important that we should do so. Ke batla hore le openg diatla for yona point ena eno. So that is why, Kerry, those who are setting up the organizations saying, Bo Dudula, Bo Mangmang, Rere, that is contravening the law. We cannot allow a situation where we are going to get people who will embark on vigilantism to deal with a problem, a social problem. We must collectively, as South Africans, deal with it. Rona, from government side, we will do our work. But we also want to say, let us work together. It's highly sensitive. Highly sensitive because this thing can soon turn out phobia, and you know how the continent can turn its back on us. We rely on this continent of 1.3 billion people for our business, for our livelihoods, for our imports, and so therefore, as we deal with the immediate problem, let us be wise, let us not be violent, and let us make sure that we remember we are a country of diverse people, and hence the appeal we make to our employers: do not employ undocumented workers, because when you do, you are just going to create tension amongst the people of our country. So today we observe Human Rights Day. We affirm that our democracy and our human rights must be enjoyed by all those who live in our country. And let's remember what the Freedom Charter says. South Africa belongs to all those who live in South Africa. So, fellow South Africans, unemployment is one of the greatest obstacles to the achievement of the rights of all South Africans. As part of our efforts to grow the economy and create jobs, we are driving a number of initiatives that are encapsulated in the Economic Reconstruction and Recovery Plan. And to address the social and economic effects of COVID-19, we have introduced a number of measures, some of which I spoke to about. To safeguard the health of our people, we have implemented the largest mass vaccination campaign in our democracy's history. Now, we must end the state of disaster. And we are looking at how we end the state of disaster. A number of other places for meetings, for sporting events and all that. That we are looking at that. But at the same time, we must reach the same level. Level ya Europe. How we were the football matching. They go in their large numbers because they've reached high levels of vaccination. 80%. 43%. So that's why, really, in order for us to get this total freedom of moving around, of knowing insurance ya revaccinate, then we must vaccinate in large numbers. I'd like to see us vaccinate in large numbers. Vaccination has proven, truly, gore bao ba vaccinatileng la ba ka kula ba tshwarwa ke COVID usually a ba bolai, empa bao ba sa vaccinatang re ba bona ba kena dipetlele, ke bona ba tletseng dipetlele, and ba bang ba bona ba re sia. So ke nnete e sa feleng eo. So that is why, really, let us still go all out to vaccinate. It's still important for us to vaccinate so that we can eliminate these restrictions as well. So In the end, Kiri, let us then move forward, work together on a number of areas in order to address the challenges that our country is facing. Now, if we work together to ensure that the Constitution of our country makes a difference in our lives, we will be much better off. So let us build this South African nation founded on human rights and dignity. Wabona sele se Ntate Mandela a na re ruta sona sa human rights, re se bona e le nnete e sa fetweng. So a re boeleng mo yona human rights ele ya Rre Mandela, re tswelle pele re godise naga e. Long live Nelson Mandela, long live. Long live Nelson Mandela, long live. Long live the spirit of Albertina Sisulu, long live. Amandla. Amandla. Ke lebogile.
Long live President Ramaphosa, long live. Well, thank you very much, Mr. President. You don't translate the message. I could hear that the message is well received, judging from the response and reaction of all of us here. Thank you, Mr. President. Allah, Allah, South Africa, Allah, Allah. Allah, Allah, President Ramaphosa, Allah, Allah. Allah, Allah, Bujana, Allah. Now, I have to do and to acknowledge our sign language interpreters here with us, the two of them, Sibone Khete and Fumani Tladi. So I'm doing this because Minister Nglesi asked me whether we have the real ones. And I assured him that they are the real McCoy. Thank you very much for that. We do have our deputy ministers here with us. We have Deputy Minister Jeffrey with us. You are acknowledged, DM. We have Deputy Minister Kekan with us here. We also have Deputy Minister Pilane Machake. I know that it's now time that we wrap up our program today. Yeah? Yeah? We have Deputy Minister of Police in the house somewhere. Oh, I thought it's one of the diplomatic corps. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Deputy Minister Matale. We are now going to ask our Executive Mayor of Bujana Platinum District, Councillor Magdalene Matlakala. Where is the Councillor Matlakala? Nonzaba.
Halala, Kostere halala. Halala, Roachile. Pambili, ka Kostere, Pambili. Program Director. Ke batla ke re Kostere re rutegile kajeko. Our strong president, Mr. Ramaphosa, o re rutile tota. I think ha re tswa mo, we are going to do everything. We are going to be the whistleblower. You are not going to be afraid of the councillors because you love your Bojanala. And President, before I can do what I'm supposed to do, I want to make this commitment in front of the whole community that is here, that as an executive mayor of Bojanala, we are going to make sure that there is no corruption in the municipality. We are going to root out all corruptions. If we have corrupt managers, we are going to take them out. So with that, we can be able to do that with your help. Please, let's work together as the community of Bojanala. We are not talking about Koster alone, but the entire Bojanala. And President, the second commitment is we are not going to be like Mafike. Not at all. We are going to make sure that Koster is the cleanest town. President, we are going to start. I'm not going to be like your minister said that they will come back after 3 weeks. Rona, we are starting next week. We know that Koster is the smallest municipality in Northwest.